Hello, welcome to this episode of Escaping the Echo Chamber. I'm your host, Aaron Comey. Black Magneto, Black Professor X. Do you think that's a good thing? Not a good thing? Too much race swapping? So a lot of people are up in arms right now. They're pissed off. They're like, oh no, here we go again. Just most recently, Ariel. There's been a there's been several. Eternals. The Eternals. There appears to have been a lot of casting changes to characters that weren't something or been race swapped, gender swapped. So yeah, a lot of people, a lot of the comic book fans are up in arms. They're mad at SJWs, these leftist liberals. Oh no, what are they doing? And and some people are mad. Some people saying, "Oh, just leave it alone." You know that it doesn't affect the story. But like the argument at that point is, if you're mad, if you're saying changing the race won't affect the story, why are you mad? If you're saying it will affect the story, okay, that's one thing. But now with the latest uproar, a lot of people are like, this is too much. These are great characters. And as I'm saying it, somebody's saying, oh, these are great characters. Why do you want to do that? Why do you want to change it? It actually sounds not too good on their part. You do have some people, though, like Eric July, who says, who comes with a different argument, like, listen, stop pandering, stop insulting, black audiences, because, there are plenty of black characters that you could be bringing and developing. So stop ignoring these black characters from the comic books and then just, tokenizing, I think is one of the words he uses, tokenizing these other characters in order to virtue signal. And I'm not sure it's virtue signaling, as I think it's kind of manipulative of what they're doing a lot of these times. A lot of these times I figure they realize that the source material is very white, and they're like, okay, we want to get non-white audiences here. So what do? We'll put Idris Elba as an Asgardian, which didn't make a lot of sense. It's Asgard. It's Norse mythology that Thor is based on. So to have a black Asgard, to my knowledge, like, weren't they all, Nordic, Norse? But that's where we're at. And I'm like, me personally, I see the point. I see Eric July's point of like, okay, now you're just being manipulative. You're just trying to get black people in the seats by saying, "Oh, look, we changed them to black. Now, are you happy?" And then in the same process, they're ignoring black characters who could be introduced into the MCU or other media, but primarily the MCU right now. If you just look at some of the changes they've done, Nick Fury was originally a white guy, although the comic books did change him first before the movies come out. In fact, the comic books specifically changed him to somebody looking like Samuel L. Jackson. And so then Samuel L. Jackson actually said, yeah, I'm in it. I'll play the role. But I get what some people are saying in terms of, yeah, this is insulting. Just actually bring out the black characters so that, we don't have to keep doing this little dance. And like I said, I don't think it's virtue signaling. I think it's about money. It's about dollars. They're like, hey, we want black audiences. We want Hispanic audiences. We want Asian audiences. They really want Asian audiences, especially if you just take a look at how big the China market is. They really want Asian audiences. So they'll do a lot to try to basically just manipulate people. And that's something I don't like. I don't like you just as an afterthought saying, hey, let's get to play this part so that, black people spend their dollars. that's kind of annoying to me, especially when you have characters that have already been in that are black that you could be bringing, and some that are really really great characters. And at that point, it's like, are you did you not want to bring this black character in because you think they would overshadow some of your other characters? You know, did you not want to bring in the black Captain Marvel because you Photon, as she was later called, because you felt she was going to overshadow. I mean, as powerful as she is in the comic books, she would like she would be taking a lion's share of the action, and clearly the spotlight, because she's just that powerful. And so that's suspect. That makes me look at them suspect. And so I'm not a big fan of this. I think it is kind of cheap. I think one of the things they could do, if even if they didn't have a wealth, even if they didn't have black characters to draw from, they could create original black characters. And so I really think it's cheap, it's cheesy, and it's manipulative a lot of times what these media companies are doing by changing the races of characters. It's like they're just like trying to throw somebody a bone. Here, just take it, go watch the movie, spend your money. We don't want to hear your whining, complaining. And it doesn't seem a lot of times it doesn't seem like it's genuine, or like it's even necessary, or like it's from a good intention place. It doesn't seem that way. However, Black Professor X, Black Magneto, I think is different from these other stories, different from these other characters. I'm not entirely upset about a Black Professor X or Black Magneto. I'm not really upset about any of it. A little like, yeah, I'm not really feeling it, but not really upset. So why am I not upset about a Black Professor X, Black Magneto? Well, I really like the X-Men, and it may seem like I'm just in favor of that because I really like the X-Men. I really like the characters, but it goes to more as to why I like the X-Men. Because I know what the X-Men is a metaphor for and an allegory for. I know what Professor X and Magneto, who they are allegories for, who they are metaphors for, who they are inspired by. And that's why this time I have to say, you know what? It kind of makes sense. It kind of makes sense. So now if you're not familiar with the X-Men, you've got, it's about mutants, and the mutants are hated by humanity. Many humans are suspicious. They hate mutants. You've even got politicians who are like, Nate, we need to monitor the mutants. They're dangerous. They're a problem. And so, humans who are just like we want to stay away from mutants. We don't like mutants. You have mutants who are ashamed to be mutants. They're like, why am I mutant? I hate this. I hate the way people look at me. I hate this negativity I'm receiving just for being a mutant. And then you've got Professor X, who is the leader of the X-Men, who's like, okay, there are some humans who don't like who hate us, but I think there's enough humans out there that we can reach, that we can, if we deal with them on a level of peace and tolerance and respect and love, we can achieve a mutual understanding. We can learn to coexist harmoniously. Meanwhile, Magneto feels humans don't like us. We don't like humans. Y'all want to get it on? We can get it on. We can take this wherever you want to get to. We will use violence. Y'all come at us. We will attack. We will defend ourselves with violence. We are not going to just sit back and let ourselves be killed. We will make sure that at the end of the day, we are the ones left standing. So I think it's a very interesting story. And if just in my description you didn't catch on to who they are, Professor X is an allegory inspired by Martin Luther King Jr. Stan Lee has confirmed it. I mean, you just have to read the story. You don't really need verbal confirmation. If you read the story, you realize, wait a minute, this is clearly a take on the civil rights movement and the civil rights era. because that's when it was made in the 60s. And Magneto clearly is inspired by Malcolm X. That's why, with all these other stories, it seems suspect. A black Nick Fury, like, why? Where did that come from? Why is that even necessary? And really, who is Nick Fury that it's some special thing that this character be made black? A black, I forget what Idris Elba's character's name is. Heimdall. What a black Heimdall in Norse mythology, that didn't make sense. But this is a different scenario because you're dealing with characters that are inspired by two leading figures of the civil rights era, two incredibly important individuals in history who were black, and that's why I'm like, okay, this is different. This is different from a lot of the other things. This does not necessarily seem like just an attempt to erase Ben. This actually makes a lot of sense. And that's why I feel way differently about this one. And I don't think there's really justification in getting mad about this, because this makes more sense than any of the others that come to mind. Also, the thing is, the original in the story, Magneto is a survivor of the Holocaust. It's now 2020. If you keep that same backstory, Magneto is now at least 80 years old. So you're going to have to change his backstory if you want to bring in a younger Magneto in the year 2020 or 2024, whenever the X-Men finally officially enter the MCU. You're going to have to change his backstory. If you bring it up 20, 25 years, boom, you can have him, as I've heard some people, the rumor out there that maybe Denzel will be one of these characters playing. In fact, maybe Denzel will be playing Magneto. Then it makes sense. Boom, 25 years later, he's not 80, he's 655, and now it makes sense why you have that backstory, and it inspires. It makes sense as to why the character develops in the manner he does, because of what he has survived and why he is coming at this with a whole different attitude than perhaps a Magneto is. Interesting thing is, I saw one individual talking about that, and they were saying that it makes sense then in that vein to make Magneto, but at that point you don't need to have Professor X. You don't have to have Professor X necessarily be played by a black actor, or Professor X being a black character. And here's where that person is wrong. It will go over horribly having a black Magneto and a white Professor X. I mean, that would be the worst thing. Like, that would, so you have no idea how much backlash would happen. Just imagine this. You've got Magneto, a black Magneto, like, oh yes, we need to defend ourselves. We need to fight back. We cannot let ourselves be murdered and hunted. And then you have a white Professor X. Calm down, Magneto. Why are you so angry? you need to just sit down and relax. It's stop with all this oppression nonsense. We have it pretty good. You have it pretty good. You need to just calm down. That would not go over well at all. So I understand, and I'm almost envisioning the talks in the background, and why I think that this is actually real and they're really considering this is because you would have to have that conversation to realize you can't just change Magneto to black and leave a white Magneto like that. I'm sorry, a white Professor X. That would just be like bad. You cannot do that. You cannot have black Magneto, white Professor X. The optics, the interaction is just horrible. It completely changes their dynamic just so much and it would be you'd have people in the theater just like cringing like every time there was an interaction, and it would just be it would be really 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 horrible. So that's where I have to. I don't think the individual that was talking about that actually thought about it that far. But yeah, that's why if you're gonna change Magneto, yeah, change Professor X too. But ultimately, I don't want Denzel Washington to play Magneto. Why not? Oh, he's an awesome actor, but he's already played Malcolm X. And as much as I like the X-Men, I do have a critique of the X-Men. I don't like that Magneto, Malcolm X, was portrayed as a villain. That has always been an issue of mine with the property. But it also was something that was enlightening to me in showing somebody on why this story being told about the Black experience through allegory was clearly not written by a Black person who's experienced it. The fact that the person who is saying we need to defend ourselves by any means necessary, we need to protect ourselves by any means necessary, is considered a villain. Because dealing with no other group have I seen that just that level of self-preservation being looked at as a bad thing. I mean, even if you hear commentators today, they'll say like, "Oh yeah, you should do things like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X was too," but when it comes time to defend their interest, they don't sound like Martin Luther King. They sound like Malcolm X. So I don't want to see Denzel Washington portraying Malcolm X as a villain. That would be a slap in the face. He's portrayed Malcolm X beautifully, inspirationally, as a hero. Portraying him as a villain would be a slap in the face. That would be really really bad. That's actually like up there with the level of bad of having the white Magneto telling the black the white Professor X telling the Black Magneto, yeah, you just calm down. Why are you so angry all the time? That's in fact it's actually worse than that. So yeah, I don't want to see Denzel Washington play Magneto. I sincerely hope he doesn't play Magneto. And I hope that somebody realizes, yeah, maybe we shouldn't have that happen. Maybe we should just get somebody else. Because I actually did see somewhere else, somebody used the thumbnail and they had Giancarlo Esposito wearing the Magneto helmet. And I was like, wow, I got chills. Because thinking about Giancarlo Esposito's, Giancarlo Esposito's, wow, I can't speak. Thinking about Giancarlo Esposito as Magneto gave me chills. I mean, just imagine Gus Fring. If you've seen him play villains in other shows, other movies, this guy as Magneto would be amazing. So if they do it, somebody like a Giancarlo Esposito, like that would be a serious thing. And I don't know what's gonna happen, but like I said, if they keep them as white characters, I don't necessarily have a problem with it. It's an allegory. I appreciate the allegory. I appreciate the analysis of it. I disagree with the ultimate statement it's making that, in the case of, Black Americans who are facing, who are the victims of terrorism, state-sponsored terrorism, that they should just sing kumbaya and get along with everybody. I wholeheartedly disagree. The matter of self-defense in the face of violence is unquestionably a moral position. Defending yourself is not an immoral position. Does not make you a bad guy. So I do disagree with that ultimate aim. And hey, that's a topic I could go into depth more at another time. But Black Magneto, Black Professor X, not nearly on the same level or of the same, or even coming. It doesn't appear to even be coming from the same place as some of these other choices of changing to a Black Ariel, Black Heimdall, Black Nick Fury. None of this even. I don't think there's any comparison between those situations, and I think, hey, this is something that actually makes sense and might actually be a really interesting thing to watch. Hey, when the X-Men come to the MCU, I'm probably going to watch it anyway. And I think people should be taking that into consideration, just the whole history and what the X-Men actually, the whole X-Men story is about. Thank you for checking out this episode of Escaping the Echo Chamber. As always, give me a like, thumbs up, hit that like button, share, subscribe. Thank you for checking out this episode, and I will see you next time.